is important, but can also be easily overwhelming. A single paycheck can feel like stability, but also it can also be a limitation for some families when you look at the volatile economies we have here on the African continent. For women in particular, financial planning often intersects with unique pressures, time taken out of the workplace, unequal pay in some sectors, longer retirement horizons, and growing expectations to balance professional ambition and caregiving roles. Dr. Mavis Mazhura is an adult development and leadership psychologist. We examine with Dr. Mavis how women can move beyond the idea of one career, one salary, and begin building layered income streams. Thank you so much, Dr. Mavis. Welcome on the show.
Thank you. I'm excited and looking forward to this conversation.
All right. Women already have a handful in their hands. And just thinking about the woman in my life, I'm like, another addition, right? That's where things get very complicated because the woman in many societies carry so many burdens. And most of the time, one of the burdens is also income generation. But the opportunities are not as much for women in the way that we think they are, especially on the African continent.
That is true because you find that the informal economy or, small businesses, I think the greater percentage, about 60%, is actually run by women, and not out of choice, but out of, the very fact you've mentioned that the opportunities in the bigger spaces are not available. So you end up starting a small business just out of necessity and out of, the need to survive. So that you can, make ends meet and look after, the extended sort of roles you have as a female or as a woman in your household.
Mm-hmm. And then if you now have to add an additional responsibility of more than one income stream, it becomes more work, right? Tell us how we can start thinking about that, but in ways that are more accommodating of our families, accommodating of also our mental health. How do we do that as African women?
So I think the big thing is firstly, the identity alignment. We need to note that as women, we are not trained financially. Most of us, is something that we're learning as we go. We are trained to service. We are trained to care. So we sometimes even end up giving up some of our time that we could be earning income just to service, others for free even. So I think it's the identity alignment is important to say when we are taking on an additional role to get more income, how do you make sure that you put in place these necessary boundaries, be it with your family, be it with your friends, because your friends will come and say, oh, you cook, just do this for me for free. Let the service that you are sort of making additional income be a service to anyone, whether it's family or friends. They need to be able to pay for that. So boundaries are critical. So that identity alignment where we become clear about the fact that, we are earners. We are, in some instances, even breadwinners, where you have 43% of households in South Africa being female-led. So I think that is important to start off with the identity alignment, where we begin to see ourselves as people who can generate money, people who can save money, people who can invest money. So we're not just operating from the survivor identity where we're just earning and spending. Right. So I think that is critical. So once we have the boundaries in place, right, it's also important to empower ourselves financially. I think most of us have kind of, I call it subcontract our own financial lives to somebody else, maybe a partner, maybe a male figure in our lives. So we need to empower ourselves so that we understand the money cycle. We understand what investment opportunities are. So we don't end up getting into desperate situation where, you want to raise more income, but now somebody comes up with this kind of lucrative business opportunity, but without financial literacy to be able to really look at it in terms of, is this really an opportunity? Many women have actually also lost money. So I think it's important to also empower ourselves financially.
I like that because I want us to speak about the approach. And the reason why sometimes people lose money is because, like, we're having a conversation like this, hey, you need to diversify your income and find out more. Yeah. And then people go online and say, how do I diversify my income? And they see people, maybe other women in this groups who either sell clothes or, they do this, what is this, network marketing. And they're like, yeah, this is perfect. I've seen other people do it. I'm going to do it too. When you're approaching diversify your income, in order to have longevity, should you be looking at perhaps the things that you can do and maybe even the things that you're passionate about, the talents that you have, before you even just pick anything?
All right. So I think it's important to identify what you're passionate about, what you're skilled in. But sometimes some of our passions cannot actually earn us money. So I think it's also important to note that not every passion is going to be an income generator. Right, yes. So I think, so we also then need to be able to say, how do I empower myself? I am wary of getting into a business that I don't have a skill in, or that I don't have a mindset for, that I don't understand how it works, right? Somebody else tells you, oh, put your money here, there's going to be an increase. You don't actually do the due diligence to study that business and how it works. So if we put in money, how are we going to get back money? How is it generating income? So I think it's important to study, skill yourself in the industry, skill yourself in the niche that you want to get into, and understand, spend time with people who have been doing business in that sort of niche so that you understand how they are making money. One of the traps which you actually kind of mentioned is that as women, we like to do things in groups, right? It's our natural tendency. We gather, we do things together. So if someone is selling clothes, I also want to run and sell clothes without doing my due diligence, right? Okay, so I think it's important to just really assess the nature of business you want to get into, equip yourself, skill yourself, train yourself, talk to more people about it, do your own assessment. I was actually doing a coaching this morning, and one of the ladies is considering getting into business, and she's like, I wanted to do my business, my website. And I actually sat with myself and I asked myself, am I ready for a website? Because the business hasn't actually started. So if I start putting a website out there, I'm going to now be paying monthly, subscriptions that are actually taking from a business that's not yet generating income. So those are some of the things to really do an assessment, and financial literacy becomes very critical, very critical.
The side hustle vibe can be exhausting, especially because already people are kind of selling the same things, have the same kind of ideas of what to do with a side hustle. Dr. Mavis, what would be the best way to find something that's unique, right? And something that you can also enjoy? How do you streamline it to your personal liking? Because you did say not everything that you're good at personally is going to generate money for you. But how do you do something as well that's not going to be like what everyone does and then you fail because it's just too much of it in the market?
Right. So I think it's also sometimes important to note that we don't necessarily have to start something. There are a lot of small businesses that are looking for investors. So sometimes it's not you actually starting something. You can also look at who has started something that I can invest in, right? So that I can get what kind of return. I think that is important. And I think also some of the businesses that have longevity, like, well, you look at a Stokvel, it's not necessarily kind of a business, but it is a business because most people now are turning Stokvels into interest bearing. They are loaning money that they have, put together. They are taking the Stokvels to generate income for paying off houses. So I think sometimes there's already existing businesses that are already doing well, instead of actually thinking about what do I do to actually start something new. It's good to also start something new if you are that creative and innovative and you're able to come up with new ideas. But also I always say ideas are, like birds, they are constantly flying around. So it also depends on who you're hanging around with. Are you going to these workshops where people are talking about business? Are you attending a business chamber? Are you going for a conference where people are talking about ideas? So sometimes it's also exposing yourself, immersing yourself where people are talking about ideas. And sometimes something clicks, right? Something clicks for you and you're like, that's a good idea. And then you have an opportunity to actually explore it. Because sometimes just being by yourself or being with the usual people that you hang around with, it's difficult to generate new ideas.
All right, Dr. Mazhura, we're going to come back to you. We're speaking to Dr. Mavis Mazhura, an adult development and leadership psychologist, and we'll find out a little bit more about how do you do this, especially as a woman, go beyond the idea of one career, one salary. There's so many responsibilities, family matters at times. Husbands can say, "Hi, baby man, don't do anything extra. Just stay at home, man. This stuff. I'll bring the income." And then you notice as a woman that you're feeling disempowered in that environment, and you want to bring in a little bit more money for your own personal ambitions in the home, but also for making sure that things are on top in the household. We'll continue after the break.
Conversations are happening, and Channel Africa is at the heart of them. We tell the African story with clarity, pride, and purpose, reaching audiences that matter to your brand. Partner with us and connect your business with listeners across borders in multiple languages and markets. For partnership opportunities, sponsorship, or sales, email us at partnership@channelafrica.co.za. Channel Africa, the African perspective. 60 years of Channel Africa, your trusted voice, your African perspective into the future. Benjamin Moshatama and Palesa on the move.
Let's be honest, money just isn't stretching as far as it used to. And what used to be enough to be comfortable no longer is. And by the day, the economy is getting even harder. So today we're speaking about diversifying our income and building layered income streams. Still helping us in this conversation is Dr. Mavis Mazhura, adult development and leadership psychologist. This is our Money Matters segment. Let's speak about using maybe the work and the skills that you already have to diversify. And one way that people are doing that is by consulting. So I'm not trying to look for this brand new income stream. I'm not trying to learn a new skill. I want to use the one that I already have, the job that I'm already good at, and use that as a form to diversify. Is that a good idea?
Certainly a good idea. So you could be in HR, for example, you know how to write CVs for people, and you can start doing that and you can grow that. You already are skilled in that. You already know what CVs sell. So that's actually a good idea, right? You might be in marketing, right? And you know how to do brand for small businesses. You can start consulting, you can start creating products. So that is actually a good idea. You can also even document your own knowledge. So the skill set, the experiences you've had, document that into almost like a playbook, document that into a book, and you can start selling that book. So I really, agree with the fact that, you can actually just commercialize your current skill set and mindset even more, stretch it. If you can.
Well, I'm going to put a spanner in the works because it sounds like an absolutely good idea, but it might also land us in trouble. Conflict of interest. Is that something we should consider with our current jobs, especially if we're diversifying in the same direction?
Certainly. I mean, you would then need to understand what your terms and conditions of employment are. What are the terms around, conflict of interest? Sometimes they just require that you declare that you're doing something, but sometimes it's also in conflict with your current role, so you're actually not able to do that. So those are some of the things to consider, yes.
Mm-hmm. Let's get into real life. Most women are mothers, some are single mothers, some are wives. There's so many dynamics, and the scenarios are different for each and every woman. And sometimes it's that life or that you live within the family context that can limit your possibilities of these multiple streams. How do you navigate the balance between the two, life and work?
Right. So I think the key thing is conversation and communication. It becomes important, right? So if your loved ones understand that you've got this passion, you've got this mission, you've got this idea to want to generate income, you feel that you've got potential to do more. It's a conversation to be had. But that conversation then also gets us to a point where we need to discuss boundaries. What does it mean? If I start a small business, how many hours in a week do I need? Will I still be able to cook? Will I still be able to fetch the children? Sometimes you have to discuss those things to say it's better off to get the kids on transport so that I can have more time to do this. It's better off to have a helper. so that I can be able to have time, even the bandwidth and the capacity. We know that most women who are, have a double job and the other one that is unpaid are often burnt out and overstretched. So they really do no longer have the capacity and the bandwidth to do the additional work that is required to unleash their potential and even increase their earning potential as well. So I think it's a conversation that needs to be had. It's constant communication. It's the setting of boundaries. It's also getting support, right? If you've got someone who's supporting you, clapping hands for you, I'm like, sweetheart, go for this. I know you're meant for this. Sometimes you get the people that are actually in our lives that see our potential more than we even do see it ourselves, who are willing to actually, take on the risk and say, you know what, please run with this. I know that you can win. I know that you can. And they're willing to support us.
All right, we're going to leave it there. Thank you so much for the great advice. Where can we find you, Doctor?
So I'm available on LinkedIn, Dr. Mavis Mazhura on LinkedIn. I'm also on Facebook. You can also connect with me there.
And what handles do we use? Just Dr. Mavis Mazhura?
Just Dr. Mavis Mazhura is fine. You'll find me, yes.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much. That's Dr. Mavis Mazhura, who is an adult development and leadership psychologist. Is it easy to dabble in this and that while having a mainstream job in terms of making different incomes? What's your take on it? Let us know on our WhatsApp number. But right now, let's go back to the music.